Welcome, my friends. J.R. Dukes here. I appreciate each and every one of you joining me. We are going to get right into today's topics because it has been a very busy news day, especially the day after the Fani Willis hearing. I want to welcome everybody. We're going to give everybody just a minute to trickle in as we go through a few housekeeping items. Go ahead, introduce yourself. Hello, Doris. Hello, Megan. I appreciate it. Yep, the gift that keeps on giving. And you have to admit, it is the gift. She is the gift that keeps on giving. Absolutely. Dolores, I'm going to say hello to you from Arizona. Thanks for joining us today. Folks, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so. Hit the thumbs up button. I always appreciate it. Get all that out of the way. We don't have to keep talking about that as time goes on. As y'all probably know, I'm still learning. I'm trying new things to see what works. I want to know what you like, what you don't like about the channel. Feel free to share that with me because this type of feedback, frankly, gives me ideas of what to do or not to do because I really want to take into your opinion when I decide on different topics to discuss or different type of structures that we can operate under as far as things you like and things you don't like. It's definitely appreciated. Looks like we're coming through clearly. I don't see anybody saying anything. Welcome to everyone on the X platform / Twitter. I don't guess it's Twitter anymore. So hello, X and YouTube. And of course, looks like our Facebook is coming through nice. And finally, Twitch for now. All righty. Kim, welcome. Always like to see my fellow. You know, I'm in Tampa Bay myself. I live right outside Tampa Bay. Love it here in the great state of Florida. Where's everybody from? I know we have Arizona in the house. We got Tampa Bay and Tennessee. I want to go ahead and let's take a peek at what we're going to be doing today. So let's check this out. Folks, I have to mention yesterday, right when I was discontinuing the broadcast, saying goodbye. I did it rather abruptly. I am trying different ways of doing things, as I said earlier. And it's Rebecca Starr. I don't know if she's in the house right now, but it's Rebecca Starr. Rebecca Starr, thank you so much for the super chat yesterday of $9.99. I felt terrible that I looked at the live stream just to see what the statistic was when everything was done. And I saw your super chat there. And I went to the comments and I was looking back to see if I can get a hold of it. It's not that easy to get a hold of individuals as far as live streaming is concerned. I mean, you can respond to a comment, but I have not figured out a way to directly contact some individual. If y'all know of a way to do that, feel free to share it with me in the comments. And hello, Charles in Tennessee. But at any rate, Rebecca Starr, I appreciate you. And whatever your question was, if you will let me know, I will. Well, actually, here it is right here. Bradley told the truth to the judge in the office. Judge's tone and body language was telling. Also, I wish one of the attorneys asked, are you trying to trip up Ashleigh Merchant by feeding her false information? Well, I can give you my opinion of that. That's pretty easy. And yes, I agree. Okay, so the news for today that I want to start off with right now, the text messages have started to be released. We have several text messages between Terrance Bradley and Ashleigh Merchant. That's the reason why she was so excited to start this case off. And I mean, these text messages are very revealing. So you want to stick around because we're going to go through a lot of these text messages. Now, as soon as I get a full and complete PDF of all the text messages, I believe there are 32 pages of text messages. We will have a special episode and we'll go through each and every one of the text messages because, folks, it is so compelling. It is extremely interesting. And again, I don't want to keep hyping this up, but it is very telling what is inside these text messages. It is clear that the judge has reviewed these text messages. And I agree with you, Rebecca. It's clear to me that the judge, I mean, come on, the judge knows what's up, right? We've talked about this before. The judge in this case is what we call the trier of fact. All right. The trier of fact is what? The trier of fact is the jury or the judge, basically. It is the individual or individuals that is going to arrive at the conclusion for a particular case, trial, or in this particular case, an evidentiary hearing. Full stop. That's it. That's exactly what the trier effect does. So, as we've discussed, imagine a judge. You don't have to imagine him. It looks like Scott McAfee, but put yourself in his position. He's in a very odd situation. I mean, it almost sounds like incredulous, like it can't be real. How can a judge hear all this information, especially information that he's not supposed to know as trier of fact, and yet he knows this information? Does this make any sense? It's weird, isn't it? It's rather very, very weird. So what happens, and the reason why you allow a judge to do this is real simple. The judge, even though this judge is young and he's new, he's 34 years old, this is right around his first case as a superior court judge. This judge, in my opinion, is a very good judge. I like this judge. I would like to see him a little more strict in the courtroom. I think he has lost a little bit of control of the courtroom as far as interacting with Fani Willis. However, I understand the reason he was using such kid gloves with her. As we discussed before, he works with these people. He's a newer judge. He's in the same hallways day in and day out. These are his colleagues. I've had many people mention to me, hey, JR, he contributed to her campaign. Well, of course he has contributed. I think it was a whopping 120, 150 bucks, not much. These people all contribute to one another's campaign. It would be the equivalent of you at work and your colleagues say, hey, can you buy some Girl Scout cookies? My daughter is selling Girl Scout cookies, right? A lot of us have been in that situation, and you have to buy the cookies, whether you want the cookies or not. It's just stuff we do for our kids, stuff we do for our friends, stuff we do for our colleagues. And that's exactly what's going on in this particular case, is that they all basically write a check and contribute to one another's campaign. It's just par for the course, if you will. But he's in a very, very tough situation. Literally a rock and a hard place is what this judge is between. But as a professional judge, what he is supposed to do, again, this would be very difficult in my opinion. He is supposed to go back in chambers. Remember, the in camera means privately. It means we go back behind closed doors in the judge's office. Generally, when they do this, again, there is a jury that they're trying to hide this from because they don't want to taint the jury. They don't want the jury to become confused. They don't want the jury to have to do what this judge is going to have to do. What is admissible under the rules of evidence and what is not admissible under the rules of evidence. And as these text messages are going to show here in a second, you're going to see very clearly that this Terrance Bradley, the ex-law partner of Nathan Wade, is lying. There's no other way to say it. And as far as if this judge is going to go ahead and remove them off the case, he should. There's no doubt about it. But I'm just telling you, he is in a very, very difficult place, and I don't envy his position one way or the other. So what do you think? You guys agree with me on that? I mean, it would be a very difficult thing to have to deal with. But anyway, that's why he gets paid the big bucks. So we're going to go ahead. We got several videos. I got a few articles I want us to go through. And again, Rebecca Starr, I appreciate you and your support. So let's go ahead and let's bounce down to the next item that we're going to look at here. I've had someone that emailed me, I think it was late last night, and I was looking at it early this morning, and there's so many moving parts to this case. It just gets confusing. I mean, let's be perfectly honest about it. It is confusing, but like many of y'all have said, it is the gift that keeps on giving. And that's one thing I love about this particular case. Let me go ahead and let me switch over to our next video. I should say our first video. All right, take a quick peek at this. This is the breaking news of the day. And of course, we're going to start off with one of my favorite sources. It's definitely clearly becoming one of my favorite sources in the world, and that is Breitbart. I love this paper. So at any rate, they're revealing for the first time text. Ex-law partner privately confirmed Fani Willis and Nathan Wade dated before she was elected DA. So you have, who are we talking about here? We're talking about Terrance Bradley, and they're talking about the text messages that were released. Boom. That's it. Now, remember, yesterday and the day before yesterday, they came out with the other story that is really starting to pick up speed. I think I saw 2 or 3 different major news organizations, aka the legacy news media, that is now coming out and saying, hey, these people have a plant per Joe Biden inside Fani Willis's office. And here we go. Again, another Breitbart story. Biden administration planted operative Jeff DeSantis in Fani Willis's office to target Trump. Sources say, not just one source, multiple sources. And the reporter that was handling this particular story was talking about it on social media and on TV news stations today. So this is a story that has started kind of small, but I can assure you it is taking on a complete life of its own. I want you to understand why this would be a bigger story than all this nonsense that we've been dealing with Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, and whether they're lovers or not. If this story pans out, if the story is true, boom, you have what we already know to be true. Joe Biden and the Joe Biden administration has been collaborating with Fani Willis and her administration to go after and get Donald Trump. We have documentation that Felicia James out of New York, that the special counsel Jack Smith, that the was that Irvin, who's the guy that New York City, the DA there that will not prosecute anybody that's beating up police officers, Alvin Bragg. I know his last name's Bragg, but all these individuals, there's documentation that they were at the White House to meet with White House counsel. Please recall that one of the documents we looked at was a bill from Nathan Wade to taxpayers of Fulton County for a 24-hour visit. So he billed literally all day long for the 24 hours. He was there 2 or 3 days. What could they be talking about for 2 or 3 days? You and I both know there's a whole lot of collusion going on in this case with the White House. The greatest irony here is this is exactly what they claim to be going after Donald Trump for. And they are doing this type of stuff themselves. Folks, this is not even really one of these news stories where we just kind of chuckle about it and play the game of gotcha. This is something that can literally bring down the foundation of our great society. And I'm not trying to blow this up into something that it's not. Think about it. This is corruption. This is undermining potentially our entire country. Are we going to now be a society where the party that's in power will go ahead and do everything in their power to take out the individual that just left or anybody that comes up against them as a rival? This is what they literally do in El Salvador or in Russia or some other type of banana republic. And it is very scary, very scary. Now, gratefully, the Supreme Court of the United States, late breaking news today, is that the Donald Trump case pertaining to Jack Smith, where Donald Trump is asserting an absolute defense that he cannot be tried for acts that he allegedly committed while he was president of the United States. The Supreme Court has incredibly, as I predicted though, but incredibly taken the case. And they said they will decide this very focused issue as to whether or not the president of the United States can be tried for acts he allegedly committed while he was president of the United States. And folks, I really hope the Supreme Court puts a stop to this, because if the Supreme Court rules that a president of the United States cannot be tried for acts he committed or allegedly committed while he was president of the United States, then this whole charade, this whole sham against Donald Trump comes to a complete, immediate, and full stop. Period. That's it. The case is over. So we'll just have to see exactly which way they decide to lean on, in relation to this case. I am hopeful that they are going to go ahead and rule in Donald Trump's favor. However, if you look for precedent and we go back to basically the only thing in American history that I can find generally connected to what we're talking about is during the Richard Nixon administration. And of course, I'm talking Watergate. I'm sure most of you probably know what I'm talking about. Essentially, Richard Nixon had to leave office, and they were going to go ahead and indict him for the affairs relating to Watergate. However, Gerald Ford, the president after Richard Nixon, went ahead and issued him a full pardon, which was probably the best thing to do in that situation. I believe the Supreme Court did rule on a civil matter relating to the Watergate incident. And in that particular civil situation, the Supreme Court said the president, frankly, cannot be touched. I'm going to go back and review all these facts, and we will make a video in the near future, and I will take a super deep dive in all this with you so that I can make sure I'm giving you 100% factual information. But that is what has happened to date. And of course, that's what the Supreme Court is for. The wisdom of our founding fathers continues to astound me, and it should astound you. These are people hundreds of years ago that set up this great experiment, this great society called the United States of America, and God bless them all that they had the wisdom, no doubt inspired from God, that allows things to work, allows our society to continue to function. One of the many reasons people are very jealous of us as Americans and as of United States citizens is because we are still, as of right now, a great shining light on the hill, as former President Ronald Reagan would say. We are the envy of the world. And that rubs a lot of people the wrong way, not only because we're in that position, but because we've been there for so long. Generally, if you look back through history, every society has failed. Every society has basically peaked, if you will, and then they generally fall down to a lower plateau. Kind of think of a wave. You got it going up, you got it kind of coming down. The United States, however, we've been riding this wave for quite some time now, depending on what you consider successful. At least since the industrial age, the United States has been a world power and a world leader. It's definitely the case as of World War I and World War II. The world simply would not be the world we know today without the United States of America. And it's really just that simple. So, all right, so let's go ahead and let's start picking away at the facts of today. We're going to take a quick visit back to yesterday, and then we are going to go ahead and start jumping into these text messages because they are very, very, very salacious. And let's see what I got here. They are very salacious. They are very clear that this ex-partner, Terrance Bradley, knows and knew exactly what was going on. And remember, he said under oath that he was, what was the word yesterday? Oh, I was just speculating. I wasn't really serious. I was just guessing. It's really a joke. But anyway, let's tune in with Megan Cayley real quick, and let's get a recap of the testimony from yesterday, because this is really, really interesting, and I like the way she lays it out. So let's tune in for a few minutes, and if you have any questions, as I said, put them in the comments so we can address them right away. But as a one other little service note, if you'd like to join today's conversation, let me know. I will put a link in the comments. You just need a camera, Chrome extension, and some way to hear what we're talking about, and you're welcome to join us. So here we go.
2024 presidential election. One of the 4 criminal cases against Trump could effectively end today, as the DA on it could be exposed once and for all, potentially as a liar, a perjurer, and corrupt. If she goes, the whole case could go, in a prosecution that was looking very scary for Trump, given the rabidity of this DA and the jury pool in Fulton County, Georgia. Judge Scott McAfee holding a hearing at 2 p.m. with Terrance Bradley, the former attorney friend and one-time law partner of Nathan Wade. Wade is a special prosecutor in the case against Trump. He stands accused of engaging in a kind of improper kickback scheme with DA Fani Willis, with whom he had an extramarital affair. The allegation is that Ms. Willis hired her alleged lover to work on the Trump case, capping his hours at a higher number and paying him more than the other 2 special prosecutors she brought in, and far more than any assistant DA in her office, and that the 2 of them then enjoyed the fruits of those payments on lavish vacations paid for by Wade in places like the Bahamas, Aruba, and Napa. That all of this created a conflict of interest, or at least the appearance of one, for prosecutors whose mission is supposed to be the pursuit of justice, not the pursuit of pina coladas by the sea on the taxpayer's dime. Both Wade and Willis claim the affair did not begin until after Willis hired him. They say it was early 2022 when it started. She hired him November 21, and have testified there were no kickbacks, that Willis repaid Wade for all of those trips in cash with no receipts, no ATM withdrawal slips, no deposit records, nor anything else to document the alleged repayments. By the way, in their write-up on this story today, the New York Times did not think it was relevant to tell its readers the alleged repayments were all in cash with no receipts. If you're a Times reader, here's what you were told. Willis and Wade, quote, have testified that they roughly split the costs of their vacations, end quote.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We have actually talked about that particular fact, and I'm glad that she's respelling it out for us. Unequivocally, the legacy media does not like telling us the real facts, or at least the whole facts. You guys realize that when you, I would say, let's say it this way, there are lies, and then there are what you call half-truths, and that's a lie. And that's basically what we call a lie by omission. And in the legal system, we're talking court, right? In the legal system, you can be brought up on perjury charges for simply basically making a half-truth. Because if you don't give what they, I mean, you have heard this, right? You must say the full truth, the complete truth, and nothing but the truth, or words to that effect. That, my friends, is exactly what they're talking about. And yesterday, with his ex-law partner, this Terrance Bradley, let's take a quick peek at him. With Terrance Bradley yesterday, he was back and forth. I mean, I think my favorite line was when, I think it was Steve Sato was questioning him. And what did he say? He goes, he was questioning back and forth, and 66 times he said something to the effect of, I can't recall. But with Steve Sato, he goes, so Steve Sato goes, let me be sure I understand this. You're telling me I can't recall that I remember such and such? It was hilarious. You talk about a grilling. I would have hated to have been this individual, Mr. Terrance Bradley, yesterday facing that grilling. Now, let's listen to this, and we're going to talk about why I think he engaged in this type of behavior and what happened. So let's listen in this for a minute.
Bradley, a former divorce attorney and the law partner of Nathan Wade, was heard muttering, "Oh dang," to himself when presented with potentially devastating evidence about his former client's relationship with Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis at her corruption trial on Tuesday. Bradley was presented in court with a series of text messages he sent to a defense attorney in which he was asked about the couple's relationship and was asked point blank if the relationship started before Willis appointed Wade to lead the investigation into Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election results. He replied, "Absolutely," according to the phone records that were read in court. He also reportedly told the defense attorney that the relationship started when Willis left the district attorney's office, but when questioned about the timeline on the stand, Bradley claimed he merely, quote, speculated on some things in the text exchange and did not have direct knowledge of what actually occurred. That answer seemed to have shocked some of Trump's lawyers in court, including Steve Sato, who asked, "Why in the heck would you speculate?" Bradley replied, "I have no answer for that." He also claimed he does not remember why he texted Merchant that he, quote, felt it started at the time. But he also acknowledged that when the defense attorney sent him a draft of her motion, the only error he said he found was related to a payment. That motion, however, alleged that Willis and Wade's relationship first started when Wade was still married and years before Willis appointed him to oversee the investigation.
Now remember, in this particular matter involving Terrance Bradley, he is not the only individual that has come forward and said, hey, I know that the relationship between Fani Willis and Nathan Wade happened prior to the time they swore that it started. Just to recap, the critical date is November 1st, 2021. This is the date where Fani Willis signed Nathan Wade. Now, remember this. Not only did she sign Nathan Wade, but she signed Nathan Wade illegally. She was not supposed to commit tax dollars from the taxpayers in Fulton County, Georgia. She was not supposed to just unilaterally say, hey, I'm hiring you to be the special prosecutor on this case, and here's a check for $728,000, $1 million, whatever she paid him. That was not something she was supposed to do. Now, you might be thinking, well, why did the judge allow it? Well, someone did bring up a motion pertaining to this exact subject, and the judge simply said, it doesn't matter. We are where we are. Let's move forward. I can pretty well guess that they're not happy with that decision. And I would also assume that in the future, it will probably not be tolerated. She was supposed to go to the Fulton Board of Electors or the Fulton County Board of whatever and get permission to hire a special prosecutor. And now we see why this particular step is so important. There are reasons they have these rules and procedures in place. That way, the commissioners would have an opportunity to essentially talk with Mr. Wade and make sure that his credentials are what they should be. And of course, in his case, incompetence is the lightest word that comes to mind for me. This guy is a complete idiot. I have made 4 or 5 videos, part 1, 2, 3, 4, that show Nathan Wade in action in court. And it is so clear this guy doesn't know what he's doing. It's embarrassing. The way it started out, they did not know this guy was essentially a fraud in the court. He portrayed himself as this RICO expert or this guy that was able to handle a RICO case. And that simply was not the case. It was so evident in the court. And when you look back through the prism of time, with the knowledge that we have now that all this corruption and nonsense has been going on, it is so clear what's been going on. This, I have to tell you, one of my favorite parts of this whole incompetence thing involving Nathan Wade was he's in front of the judge, right? And if you didn't see this on my video, you got to go back. I think it was part 4. At any rate, he's in court before the judge and he's arguing about something. You got to this, you got to that. He did not even have the case law with him. He said, Judge, I'm sorry, I forgot the paper back at the office. Listen, I'm just telling you, it may not seem that funny, but that's terrible for an attorney. Everybody has to have their paperwork. This is how lawyers battle. This is how they win arguments. This is how they lose arguments. In addition to Nathan Wade, it's not like this guy is overworked. There are 7 additional prosecutors, a total of 8, including Nathan Wade, handling this so-called RICO case. Outrageous, unbelievable. Can you imagine a man making $1 million on a case that forgets his paperwork? He gave the court a case law to support a particular finding, and the case did not pertain to the subject matter they were debating. And you know what? David, it's not just that he's a terrible lawyer. The guy's incompetent. When you see in the description or in their resume, oh, I was a judge. I have this qualification, that. Listen, he was a judge. Think of this term very, very loosely. I know how to illustrate this to you. Think of a episode of Night Court. That's what he was. He was a night court judge. He was handling traffic tickets, basically filling in for a judge that wanted to take a vacation. It's just something that they all do in the state of Georgia to kind of basically give the judges a break, and they get to pad their resume and tell everybody, oh, I worked as a judge. Trust me, it's a complete and utter overstatement at best. In my humble opinion, it's another type of fraud. It's kind of like Jill Biden, the first lady, the wife, of course, of President Joe Biden, being, I'm Dr. Jill Biden. Are you kidding me? That's how they refer to her now. I'm Dr. Jill Biden. Really? Folks, this is just my humble opinion. If you have not delivered a baby, you're probably not a doctor. I mean, that's just my humble opinion. Her doctor degree was something that was given to her. What do you call that? It was, honorary degree. It was an honorary degree, if you could imagine that. But that's the world that we live in. Hello to Lord. Hello, David. I appreciate everybody joining me. Thanks, Sergeant, for joining us. American Nana, Sony Lee, Rosemarie, definitely appreciate you joining us today. It's always a pleasure. And let's see, I'm probably missing a few people, but we'll get back to it. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, the text messages are terrible, absolutely terrible. So That's the kind of society we live in today, where you can go around and acting like something that you're not. But when you hear him talk about a judge, that's what a judge is. It's nothing more than a fill-in job, and it was nothing important. He has never even tried one felonious case. Can you imagine that? He has not tried one felonious case. If you go to his website, as I did in my videos, he's essentially an ambulance chaser. He's one of these guys, and there's nothing wrong with this. You know, if you want to be a personal injury lawyer, so be it. This guy's a personal injury lawyer. That's the first thing on his site: personal injury, contract law, business litigation. He's a personal injury lawyer. I just know that that's what they do. This is how they advertise. And he has never seen this type of money before in his life. According to sworn interrogatories, affidavits, requests for admissions, whatever, this guy's never made this type of money. And when Fani Willis was coordinating with the White House, she's sitting there and she's thinking, oh my goodness, look at all this money I'm making. I'm going to give it to my boyfriend, Nathan Wade, and he's going to give it back to me by proxy, or whatever you want to call it. I call it honest service fraud, which is a really weird name, but that's what they call it, honest service fraud. He is essentially a vendor for the county that she hired illegally, as we just discussed. I pay Nathan Wade. Nathan Wade basically pays me. Absolutely outrageous. And what really makes it bad is, in addition to all this corruption, it is taxpayer money of Fulton County, in addition to it being tax money of Fulton County. I mean, you know, because that just scratches the surface. It is also COVID money from the federal government. Now they have a federal problem. Wow. Crazy. If they're lucky, someone asked me what do I think is going to happen. If they're lucky, they'll just be removed off the case. If I was a betting man, I think they're going to be removed off the case. I think there is a very high likelihood they're both going to be disbarred. I think they're going to both be brought up on charges, and they have a real exposure for criminal liability. Definitely perjury is on that list. I would also say the fact is, and that's probably why the judge looks so stressed. I mean, he does look stressed to me. He knows that he is really in a bad spot. He doesn't want to have to be responsible for what's happening. I mean, I could just imagine he's pained. Can you imagine having to bring down your colleagues or people that you like, that you work with? That's kind of what's going on in this particular case. And he knows the legal jeopardy these individuals are in. What a terrible place to be. I don't know. And in that regard, I feel sorry for the judge, because the judge, to me, like I said, he looks like a decent guy. We'll wait and see how this works out. I mean, I don't know, but so far, as I said, I like him. But I do think they have serious criminal liability ahead of them. Not only that, they have the federal government looking into them. If they misappropriated federal taxpayer money, that's another crime. Wow. I mean, absolutely unbelievable what is transpiring. So let's go ahead and let's take a peek at our next video. You know how I am. If I start yapping, I won't stop. So okay, Bob, I got you right here, my friend. Let's see. Okay, looks like we got a special guest here. Let's see if this works. All right, Bobby, thanks for joining us. Is your camera working, my friend? Can you hear me? Make sure I'm hitting all the buttons right here. Okay, give me 1 second here. Edit mic second. All right, can you hear me? All right, my friend, you're going to have to, we'll come back to you, Bob. You're going to have to check your camera, and when you see your image, I'll be able to pull you back up. Just go ahead and follow the on-screen instructions. If anybody else wants to join us, I have that link that I put in the description a few minutes ago. Let's see if that link is still there. Yeah, here is the link. Go ahead. Just make sure you have to use a Chrome extension. If you're not on Chrome, it's not going to work. It has to be a Chrome extension. You need to make sure you got a microphone. It doesn't have to be a fancy microphone or anything like I got. And you got to have some kind of headset. This right here works with my phone, just a vibrating earbud. We just need to hear you. You need to be able to hear us. We need to be able to see you. Just that simple. So if you'd like to join, go ahead and follow the on-screen instructions. It's real simple. You don't have to download any software into your system, and that is that. So let's go ahead and let's pay another visit to the next thing. Now, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Lou Dobbs. He's an old school guy, but I love Lou Dobbs. Used to be on CNN for years, and then I think he had a stint on Fox News. He was always a conservative guy, even though he worked at CNN. But remember, back in the 80s, CNN was not what it is today. I mean, CNN is way out in the wacko world, but that's not the way it was, at least in my opinion, back in the 80s. But let's take a quick peek at what Lou Dobbs has to say. We're going to listen to this for a few minutes. He pretty well is going to start hammering away at what Breitbart's been reporting.
There is now shocking evidence that the Biden White House has been interfering with the upcoming presidential election. Evidence. As we told you earlier in the show, an exclusive report from Breitbart reveals how the Biden administration placed a Democratic operative into the Fulton County District Attorney's office, as that same office, led by Fani Willis, was waging a partisan crusade against President Trump. A source close to the situation telling Breitbart that, quote, DeSantis did this. He's the one. He is the one pulling all the strings. He was the one that walled her off.
That's his picture right there, in case you're wondering. That's a picture of DeSantis. It's not Governor DeSantis here in Florida. That's another DeSantis. This is the political operative, the guy that's accused of being the plant of Joe Biden's, the Biden administration, in the office of DA Fani Willis in Fulton County.
He was in every important meeting. He is the brainchild behind this. That is the connection to the White House. The source also said that Jeff DeSantis was instrumental in choosing the jury in this case, and he relied on voter registration data to do so. So now it's beyond clear that this case is a sham. The only crime committed here is the one being committed against our republic, ironically, by the very people who are lecturing the rest of us about threats to democracy. We're only going to learn more about this scandal as the case goes on. Fani Willis and her lover, Nathan Wade, could be booted from the case very soon, and worse. The judge in the trial, Scott McAfee, deserves considerable credit. He's ordered Wade's former law partner and divorce attorney, Terrance Bradley, to return to the stand. Bradley had previously argued that his communications with Wade were covered by attorney-client privilege. Judge McAfee has ruled that his claims are invalid. So what does this mean? Well, it means the defense, Trump and the other co-defendants, can soon have access to what they believe is evidence that Willis's and Wade's relationship started well before Willis hired Wade. If that is proved to be true, it will prove that Willis and Wade both committed perjury, lied under oath. And joining us now is Kurt Olson. He is a distinguished conservative attorney. He's fighting for election integrity around much of the country. And Kurt, is always great to have you with us. Thanks for being here. I want to turn to, if we may, the Willis case that has become more salacious and sensational, it seems, by the week. Your thoughts about what we are witnessing when the Nathan Wade's attorney, divorce attorney, is going to be testifying openly, apparently. And that had been a big mystery to why anyone in the world would do as he did, which is just try to take the Fifth Amendment and say he kept forgetting throughout the original questioning. Your thoughts about this?
Well, Lou, Terrance Bradley is Nathan Wade's former colleague and attorney. And the issue, of course, is that Mr.
He's supposed to be the former attorney in addition to his business partner. However, in my humble opinion, this "I'm his attorney" is a very loose association, okay? I want you to make sure we're clear about this. He has never paid Mr. Bradley $1 to be his attorney. Now, in all fairness, you don't have to pay your attorney to have an attorney-client relationship, but I just want to be clear. It's not like they had what you and I would generally think of as an attorney-client relationship, to put it bluntly. Clearly, this case smells of fraud everywhere.
Mr. Bradley exchanged some text messages with some of the defense counsel saying that Nathan Wade's relationship with Fani Willis began back in 2019, which would contradict both Willis's and Wade's testimony that the relationship began in 2022. And so that's a perjury trap. It still doesn't matter in many ways, because the fact is Fani Willis is paying her lover to prosecute the former president of the United States with public funds. And that is a per se violation of due process, a right to a fair trial under Supreme Court precedent. Fani Willis, by taking trips and other gallivants with her lover, Nathan Wade, has been alleged to have been using public funds because Nathan Wade has been paying for those trips, for example. Now, Fani Willis testified that she paid back in cash. But this, as you said, is incredibly salacious, and it really does show the level that this country has sunk to when somebody like this can be prosecuting the former president of the United States and currently 14 other co-defendants for saying that the 2020 election was stolen.
Right. You know, it's pretty clear.
It is incredible, folks. It's absolutely incredible to me. I don't know about you, but an individual like Fani Willis that can just unilaterally go after the former president of the United States and another 17 co-defendants, I believe there's about 15 total that are left right now, and go ahead and bring charges of this magnitude against our president. It is just really outrageous that, I mean, let's be honest about it. When she was on the stand, what an unintelligent woman with extreme anger problems. Her hubris is just unbelievable. She really thinks she is the, I don't know, are we supposed to bow to her? I'm not sure what's going on. And then she plays that race card. That just aggravates the you know what out of me. It does no one any good as a minority when you act like that. You set a bad example for other young men and women to follow your example. It's a terrible example. You teach people you're a victim. You teach people that you can go ahead and use something like that as a crutch, as something to hide behind, as an excuse for bad behavior. In this case, as an excuse for illegal behavior. It's shameful. Shame on you, Fani. You shouldn't do that.
This country has had a culture, and I want to just turn to a cultural aside here. This country has been sinking to the lowest common denominator imaginable, no matter what the area. When we look at the law, it is the lowest common denominator, it would seem to me, to have all of these prosecutors who are Soros-sponsored, who have no regard for the law that they are, quote unquote, enforcing and prosecuting. It's disgusting to see what the legal profession has become because they're trying and have been trying. Think about this, everybody. We're talking about 9-10 years of prosecution of the president of the United States in one form or another. Political persecution, harassment, attempts to overthrow and subvert his presidency, his campaign, and his life after the White House.
Imagine that, folks. You have the former president, Donald Trump. He has been persecuted approximately 10 years to date. That is really hard to get your mind right. 10 years? Remember the Russia garbage? That was complete garbage. It was complete fabrication. And I believe it was either proven or suspected that it was paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign. All of this dossier nonsense, all this weird stuff they said former President Donald Trump was involved in, complete garbage, complete lies. Remember, even when COVID first came out, you remember the thing that they said, Donald Trump come forward and said, oh, we think it might have originated in China. They laughed at him so hard you could feel the earth shake. I mean, everybody was laughing. They're not laughing now. I mean, this man has been laughed at, persecuted, sublined. What you go ahead and fill your adjective in there, your verb in there. He has been right on all this stuff. And every time they say something is wrong with this man, it is really amazing how they continue to feed us all of this nonsense. So let's go ahead and dive in to today's big story that I cannot wait to start rubbing about here. And we're going to switch from the plant. You know, if there's a plant in that office, I'll make a couple comments about it later. If there's a plant in that office, wow. We'll see how that pans out. But if Joe Biden put a plant in that office, it's gonna be earth shaking. I really don't know how it would not be. So let's go ahead and take a look on the X platform. My buddy Phil Holloway, he is an attorney in Atlanta, Georgia. Actually, he's in the Cobb County area, just north of the downtown metro Atlanta area. And anywho, he has came out with these text messages. I'm going to blow this up so we can take a look at this together. Now, as soon as I get a complete PDF of this, I will definitely share this with everybody. Now, I want you to look at this with me, and you guys tell me if this man knows whether or not Fani Willis and Nathan Wade had a relationship prior to November 1st, 2021. And listen, just to set the context real quick, this is Ashleigh Merchant, the current attorney, the great attorney, the lady that got all this started. She is the attorney for Michael Roman, one of the defendants in the so-called Trump RICO case in Fulton County, Georgia, brought by, of course, Fani Willis DA. She contacted Terrance Bradley and said, hey, I'd like some information. And this is their, at least in part, this is the exchange of text messages they had. So let's take a look at this. And I'll read this here in case you can't see it. But you got Ashleigh Merchant. It's on her iPhone. It says, this is Ashleigh Merchant. She goes, do you still think she is going to deny? And Bradley says no. And then Bradley says, too many people saw their interactions. And then Merchant says, Ashleigh Merchant goes, me too. I think they will admit it. By the way, this is dated approximately January 16th, 2024. So this just happened. And we'll talk about why he had a apparent change of heart here. At any rate, you got Terrance Bradley. How much was Cross paid and the other special prosecutor? Now, Cross is one of the prosecutors on this case that works in the Fani Willis administration in the office, okay? And Ashleigh Merchant said Cross is $250, Floyd $150. I'm assuming that's $250 an hour, and Floyd, another prosecutor, $150 an hour. Merchant says they went to Australia in December. Ashleigh goes, OMG, they went to Belize. She's talking about Fani Willis and Nathan Wade. Australia, Bahamas, Napa, Panama City Beach. This is the first I've heard of the Australia trip, but allegedly they went to Australia on top of all the other places they've been together. Merchant continues, Royal Caribbean and Norwegian Cruise Line. Again, these are text messages that she is sending to attorney Terrance Bradley, the former law partner, the gentleman we saw on the witness stand yesterday. She continues, Ashleigh goes, happy birthday, love the pics. And then Terrance said, thank you. And you have the brief TY, thank you. Then you have Ashleigh Merchant saying, just checking in on you. So this is another day. That was the 16th. Now we're on the 24th of January. Just checking on you. I am going to be sending a subpoena for 215, but I need to be prepared. This is where she, as she said in open court, she was talking with him about the facts in the motion that she was preparing for the court. And all this time, I mean, this is going right up to the beginning of February here. This guy is obviously cooperating with her. So it continues. And this is where it starts getting good, because they have a lot of, let me see what they got here. She goes, I'm subpoenaing Chris Campbell and Nathan's office stuff. I fear, and this is really good stuff here. I fear it would look suspicious if I did not also subpoena you, but I plan on putting Nathan and Fani on the stand and only have others under subpoena for backup. I will leave you out, but I think if I don't subpoena you, it will look fishy. What do you want me to do? And Bradley says, oh, I'm okay with it. To me, that sounds like a trick, kind of like I have to subpoena you, but I don't want you to wig out when I subpoena you. Listen, these people are attorneys. They should know better. If you have a case, if you have a trial, especially of this magnitude, I don't care if they're BFFs or not, you send a subpoena to that individual, make sure he shows up. It's just that simple, folks. I don't care what they're saying. At any rate, Bradley goes, oh, I'm okay with it. Again, January 24th at 10:07 a.m. in the morning. Okay, Ashleigh continues. She goes, she liked it. She hit the thumbs up button, apparently. Hey, I like it. I'm okay with it. Ashleigh continues. It's my hope that they do the right thing before then. And Bradley goes, you are my friend and I trust you. They will not. They're arrogant as F. That's what he said. They're arrogant as F. She thinks she won the other day when she didn't have to be deposed. Talking about the previous hearing that they had where she did not have to be, remember the hearing in Cobb County where she didn't have to be deposed right away? They delayed it. Well, that's what they're talking about. I wouldn't say she didn't have to be deposed. It was just put off for some point in the future, which probably will mean she won't have to be deposed in that particular matter. All right. Merchant continues. That wasn't a win. Thompson set them up. Nathan can admit it all on the 31st, and if he doesn't, then Thomas will make Fani sit. He basically gave Nathan a chance to protect her, but if he doesn't tell all, then Fani will have to sit. They're talking about for a deposition. She continues, Nathan's finances make it look like he owned a lot of money, like he owed a lot of money when he began this. She's just chatting back and forth. And Terrance goes, owed to who? His next comment is not true, as in that's not true. And then Ashleigh Merchant says loans. In other words, she's talking about loans. Ashleigh continues, questioned, not true. Ashleigh Merchant continues, it may just be coincidence. He was highly leveraged. In other words, in debt. Oh, here, this is good. Bradley goes, that's on paper. She goes, what do you mean? You think he's hiding some assets, folks? Let's see if it continues here. Here we go. All right. So it continues. So the FCDA opened records. Actually, they did not go any further on that. Let's see if it does anything different. Let me see if I can get any more information off that for you guys. It's unfortunate it does not zoom in anymore. Let me take a look and see if there's anything else. That was on paper. What do you mean? No, that's it. That's all that's on that. I'll have to get a hold of all the records. They're just dripping them out right now, one little at a time. This particular one says, so the FCDA, that's going to stand for the Freedom of, FCDA. I think that is the Open Records. Yeah. So the FCDA Open Records is saying they don't have an original contract for when Nathan began work. They only have his renewal contract. Is that possible? Ashleigh continues. File attachment with MIME type, blah, blah, blah. It's got an image, open records request. Remember, one of the many things going on in this case is Ashleigh Merchant has filed a suit against Fani Willis in her office for failing to comply with the Open Records Act. That's another issue going on right now. And of course, Terrance Bradley's response to this is, wow. Ashleigh continues. They're stalling big time. He goes, yes, they are. So he's like, yes, they are. The next set goes. All right. Again, this is just another group of text here. Let's see what it says. It goes on. This is Ashleigh Merchant starting. That's the thing. Even without evidence of sex, he paid for her plane tickets and her travel. Explanation point. All right. Bradley goes, subpoena them all. So he's on board. He's like, please subpoena all these individuals. Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, whomever. Ashleigh goes, I am nervous. This is huge. As Donald Trump would say, this is huge. I am nervous. This is huge. And then, of course, Bradley is encouraging her. Terrance Bradley, he goes, you are huge. Bradley goes, you will be fine. Bradley continues, you are one of the best lawyers I know. And he continues, go be great. I love that. Go be great. How about that? Isn't that interesting? So he was on board. I wonder why that is. He was on board then and he's not on board now. All right, continuing. This is 11/11, 24, 11:48. Okay, Ashleigh goes first. Are you doing okay? I hope so. Next, do you have an address for the East Point pad or maybe a name for the lady who owned it? And Terrance Bradley goes, I do not. He goes, let me see. Ashleigh continues, any loads would be helpful, or any leads would be helpful. Thank you. Terrance Bradley replies, do an open records request of all the people hired when Fani took office and who was fired around June of 2022. If you get that, I will be able to give you the name. Ashleigh Merchant replies, Thomas Ricks was her security, so that's another individual in this matter. Then she liked do an open records request of all the people. So he encouraged her to file the open records request that led to another lawsuit against Fani Willis in her office. That's very obvious. She also says it was someone who worked for her. And she goes, damn. Terrance Bradley, she hired a girlfriend, like a bestie. It was her place. So obviously they're referring to Robin Yearty. That was the first witness, the ex-best friend, the ex-friend that was the first witness that said definitively she saw Nathan Wade, Fani Willis in an adult relationship in 2019. How does she know they were an adult relationship? Her testimony stated, I saw them holding hands. I saw them kissing. So we know what was going on. It was her bestie. So Ashleigh Merchant goes, oh, so she hired the man and his girlfriend owned it? Yeah, she goes, oh, so she hired the man and his girlfriend owned it. And Terrance Bradley goes, Green was her security as well. Merchant replies with a like. I liked Green as her security. Interesting how that goes. So I will continue to do the hard work of getting the rest of these text messages. Again, they're being drip, drip, drip out, but they are so damning. These are so damning. It is so clear what is going on here. What? I mean, how a judge can read that and not clearly see the truth. He just has to, in his mind, figure out what's admissible, what's attorney-client privilege, what is not. Now, let me ask you something. Why do you think, put it in the comments if you can, why do you think that this Terrance Bradley initially was extremely receptive to Ashleigh Merchant? He was obviously very willing to help her. He was gleeful. To be perfectly honest with you, to me, sounds like he's flirting with her a little bit. What do you think? That's what it sounds like to me. And Ashleigh Merchant is a married woman. In case you don't know, she's a married woman. I don't know that these two know each other that well, but they sound like at least they're colleagues. However, he did tell her, go be great. So he's definitely encouraging her to continue on with this case. I wonder why there's such a change of heart. Well, as I have been alluding to and I'd said before, what I think has happened by listening to all the testimony and just taking pieces and putting it together, and I've heard other commentators say other things, but it's just my humble opinion. What I think has happened is originally him and Nathan Wade had some kind of major falling out. Apparently there was some kind of sex scandal, some kind of sexual malpractice, malfeasance, whatever you want to call it, that was alleged against Terrance Bradley. And of course, he was very upset about this. And the way I understand it is Nathan Wade terminated him from their firm. So you have an individual that likely had an axe to grind, just that simple. So he gets a call from Ashleigh Merchant saying, hey, I'm looking into this case here. Can you help me out? I think the DA, Fani Willis, and Nathan Wade are compromised. I think there's some kind of conspiracy going on, some kind of corruption going on. Can you help me out? I need direction. And then, of course, we just read some of their text messages back and forth as to what was going on. And he was all too happy to help her out, right? I mean, that's pretty clear. So what I think has happened, and it's just my opinion, I think after realizing this is a case of worldwide interest, the whole world is looking at this case, and he realized, hey, I may be the one responsible forever and ever. My name's going to be in the history books. I am the individual that stopped this case against Donald Trump. I took my former partner, Nathan Wade, and the DA, Fani Willis. I caused them to lose their careers, to become disbarred, to be imprisoned, to be whatever, all because I opened my mouth. And I think that that's what has happened. I think that is the reason why you've had approximately 66 instances of, I can't remember, I can't recall. And then he had the gall to tell the court, Judge, I think I was speculating. He told the attorneys, I was just speculating when I was chatting back and forth with Merchant. Remember, there's other text messages that soon will come out, I'm sure, that show not only the text messages we've already read, but a text message where Ashleigh Merchant actually made up the motion to open all this up and have Fani Willis disbarred, or rather have her removed off this case, to be accurate about it. He actually reviewed the motion and replied something to the something around, hey, great job, looks good. Now, of course, his commentary is that I was speculating. Just sounds completely stupid, doesn't it? No one believes that. I don't believe that. You don't believe that. We know that this is nothing but a complete bunch of garbage, just a complete lie. Am I right about that? Is anybody different with me on that? It's just complete garbage, complete nonsense, and it's unfortunate that he's. Well, why would he risk his own reputation and his own law license conducting this type of behavior? And I'm talking about Terrance Bradley, because remember, Terrance Bradley can open himself up to a perjury trap, a perjury situation. Now, admittedly, it's going to be very hard as far as Terrance Bradley is concerned, but that doesn't mean he can't be brought up on perjury charges, because answering questions like that, I don't think a reasonable jury will believe that he doesn't recall or that he doesn't know. I think he changed his mind for whatever reason. Sounds like a big risk to take for a former law partner that you don't even like and a DA that you just know of. I don't know of any relation between Fani Willis and this Terrance Bradley that makes them BFFs. Obviously, he just decided that, hey, I'm not going to be the guy that takes him down. But here is something y'all all need to remember. It's not just up to Terrance Bradley. The judge can rely on the testimony of Robin Yeardy. Remember, the ex-roommate, the ex-college friend of Fani Willis. So that is something that we all have to consider. It's not just up to Bradley. The judge is going to have to take all of this evidence into account. Just that simple. I mean, that's pretty well what it boils down to in that particular situation. Let me go through some of these text messages so we don't get too far behind on those. So let me gives me a chance to catch up, make sure everybody's on the same page. If you have any questions or anything, please let me know, because this is the time to hit it up here. We got say, I wonder if Trump lawyers know. Oh, I'm sure they do. I've said this before. I think that the other shoe is going to fall, so to speak. I don't think that Steve Sado and all these other investigators that they have working on this case are giving or showing all their goods, so to speak. It's kind of like playing poker. You don't show all your cards. If you remember, Steve Sado was setting up Nathan Wade and Fani Willis, for that matter, by asking them questions. Hey, you were never at this place in East Point, right? Okay, you're sure, absolutely sure. Nathan Wayne's like, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, of course, I was never there. He goes, well, if I have phone records that show definitively you were there, those records would be wrong. Yeah, those records would be wrong. Oh, I mean, just nailing that coffin shut, you know? It's just brutal. Remember, and again, we will talk about this in the days to come. They have produced extensive cell phone records. I'm not sure if the judge is going to admit those records in this particular case, because they may not be timely and it may not be fair to the other side. They have not had a lot of time to review. However, I don't think it even matters. But what I will tell you is they have cell phone records that all but prove that Nathan Wade, Fani Willis were having a relationship prior to November 1st, 2021. It's just very obvious by the software that they used, by the volumes and volumes of records that they have. You would see Nathan Wade, for example, over in the area of her residence, let's just say from like 9 o'clock to 3:30. He leaves East Point and heads home. Either they were in East Point, or I'm sorry, East Cobb, and he went to East Point, or she was in East Point. He went back up to East Cobb, and I believe he lived in. Matter of fact, he did live in East Cobb because his office is off Power Ferry Road, which is in the East Cobb area. So he was basically having a booty call at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night with Fani Willis. He left approximately 3:30. Then when he would arrive back home at 6:30, he was basically giving her one of those calls. Hey, baby, I made it. Yeah, I appreciate the time. Okay, bye-bye. That's exactly what happened. It's obvious. We all know what happened. And it's not just one instance of it. There is a ton of data on this here. If you guys remember that graphic that we had up, let me see. I want to make sure I'm accurate about this. If you remember this graphic that we had up, I'll show it to you so you can look along with me on this. It's not just one or two different calls or whatever. It is a ton of information. So let's go ahead and take a look at this together real quick here. In this particular thing, right, I'm looking at this right here. You have 35 times Nathan Wade's phone pinged near Willis's home. And this is only the period of January through November, up to November 1st, 2021, the time just before they said under oath that they could have had a relationship, November 1st, 2021. So remember that date. If you take January 2021 and you go through the end of October, basically, this is what they're talking about. 35 times Nathan Wade's phone pinged near Willis's home. 2,000 voice calls, 10,000 text messages, 12,000 total interactions. Isn't that amazing? That's what you call something, ain't it? That is a ton of that is a ton of calls. I have a long-term girlfriend. There's no way I've ever texted her 10,000 times. No way. He must be a very needy guy. No wonder why Fani Willis acts the way she does. Oh, baby, I miss you. Baby, I can't leave it that. What is going on right here? Oh, my goodness. Oh, well, let me continue with this stuff here. All right, see, Biden, I want you to book for all the news. Yeah, no doubt. It is that whole record situation is a complete bag of nonsense. How they're charging Donald Trump with misappropriating records, yet Joe Biden, there's no consequence or no nothing on that. There's no consequence for Biden on those records, but there is on, for Donald Trump allegedly having records that he was not supposed to have on his person. Just a bunch of nonsense, absolute nonsense. Yeah, Fani, verdict, Rochester. Yeah, and just so you know, what's supposed to happen is Friday, they're going to have argument. That's what they're going to have. Like it's almost like a closing argument, a trial. That's exactly what they're going to have, Sergeant King. And they're, I don't know exactly what the split is going to be as far as how many minutes one side gets and how many minutes the other side gets. But the bottom line is that's what they're going to do. They're going to have this conversation, this argument, if you will. And after they're done with the arguments, yeah, he is, David, thank you for that. He is definitely a terrible lawyer, and we'll see how it goes. I'm assuming the judge will hear the arguments on Friday, and then he's going to make his mind up in the days and weeks to come. Rosemary Fier, appreciate you joining us as always. Merrick and Nana, always appreciate you too, sweetheart. Let's see here. Yeah, he was a traffic court judge, Sergeant. That's exactly what I always think of, that night court situation. Hello, David Harden. See, where Wade will be disbarred is when Judge McPhee has Wade submit all of his invoices and billables. Yep. It's nowadays, folks, it's not difficult. Hello, Jay Lord. It's not difficult to have a to find information about people nowadays. We live in a time where everything's on camera, where we're all videotaped, on camera, I should say, all the time, every day. Our cell phones know where we're at all the time. Our cars are tracked where we go. There's automatic plate readers everywhere. Here in Florida, we have Sun Pass. I'm sure y'all have different things. As a matter of fact, I know in Georgia, they have something similar to Sun Pass with all the freeways and stuff that they have there now. So it's just very difficult to get away with anything, in my opinion, nowadays. You better watch a lot of episodes of Forensic Files. That's all I can tell you. And even then, it's almost impossible to do something without a trait, or without leaving a trace or something back there. And I think that's pretty well the way that they're doing that. So, folks, I think we've been where we need to be at this here. I appreciate everybody joining me. Been an hour and 10 minutes. Please make sure you subscribe. That way you know when my next video comes out. I do appreciate each and every one of you. Stay tuned. I'm going to be all over this case. I absolutely promise you guys this. I always say, keep that mind free. Never give up. And until next time, my friends, I am J.R. Duke.